Greetings, welcome to and/or welcome back to my YouTube page. And yeah, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you get notifications of when I go live and/or post content. And now that the lighting is fixed, so let's get into this. Here are some things that I wish a mentor would have told me when I was younger, getting into witchcraft, and in this day and age, with the amount of sheer confusion that there are with people going around stating, oh, well, this is law and that's law. There's no law, okay? So here are some things that will hopefully help you out on your path as well. Number one, you do not have to work with gods and goddesses right out the gate. And in fact, you don't have to work with them at all. Also, there's a difference in working with a deity and devoting yourself to a deity, okay? Now, another one that has been confusing a lot of people, because it also makes people uncomfortable when they think a deity is reaching out to them, because then it puts all this pressure on them of like, what happens if I piss them off and say no? That's not really how deities work, in my opinion. In the day and age of social media, okay, most algorithms, if you interact with this video, even if it is a like, even if it's accidental like, okay, that video or that algorithm is going to pump you more of that particular deity, okay, whether that is the history of the deity, whether that, which I cannot stand these videos because they've just done so much. Here are 5 signs that so-and-so is reaching out to you. And they are the most vague fucking response ever. Oh, are you seeing crows everywhere? Well, yes, Nancy, because I don't know, I live where crows are at. So let's actually deep dive this. For one, bioregalism. I learned it in the Southern Cunning book, and it has completely changed my entire perception of divine signs and symbols when it comes to animals. Because yes, there are a lot of gods and goddesses associated with not only the same animal, but also different animals, right? And I always use, this is a prime example actually, I feed crows. It was completely accidental, but I have this flock of crows, or a murder of crows, that I feed on my property. It was accidental because I'm Southern, and I was always taught that you have one specific spot on your property where you throw out your old food. And I forgot exactly what the first one was, but vultures were attracted, and then the crows came. And I started researching, and you can feed crows. Also, do not just randomly feed them anything, okay? There are some things that are not good for them. But in general, I feed them, which means, hold that thought. I forgot to put my phone on vibrate. I feed crows, okay? Which means they not only will periodically come twice, they come to the property twice, but they also hang out around, right? So if I go to my altar over here, which is what I call my working altar, I'm going to get into that too, and I ask for a sign from my spirit team, and then I walk outside and a crow appears, that's not a sign because I feed them. The same as with, for an example, another example, we feed, because I have outside cats, and the blue jays around here have discovered, holy shit, there's free food here as long as I don't come around when a cat's there. But the one thing we don't really have on the front of our property are robins. They're mainly in the back of our property. So at any point in time, if I'm looking for a sign or asking for a sign and I see one, then I will typically go to my oracle or tarot deck to actually deep dive that and be like, okay, is this just a natural phenomenon, or is this something different? Now, for an example, if I was walking to my mailbox and all of a sudden I came across a red fox. Yes, we have foxes in Florida, but I've never really seen one except for in videos. You see what I'm saying? Now, bioregalism is the specific research and observance of your regional area that you were in. That could be directly next to your house, or that could be like the entire county that you live in. Researching that, you're going to see, or just observing it, you're going to see what is natural, what is normal for the entire year. That's through all the seasons too. This is going to help die down some of that confusion. Now, in my experience, most of the time, if a divine being shows up with an animal, it's going to be something that you have not really experienced. Let me know in the comments if you would like the story time of the time that I had a very crazy interaction with a hawk, and till this day, they follow me everywhere. When I used to go in with my partner to work, every single time we would show up on a property, there would be a fucking hawk. And his coworkers associated it with me because every single time they would have this weird interaction, I was there, except for 2. There were 2 other times. But in general, That's number one. All right. Number two is, for an example, on the TikTok shop, there is this jewelry company. Okay. They sell Hecate necklaces, Hecate, or who I call Mother. I have another one that you may see. And then they also, I believe, sell Lilith and a couple other ones. They're really pushing that right now, which means if you request a free sample, you have a specific amount of days, 15 days, to be able to make a review video on it, right? That's where some of this is coming from. For one, if you have been on TikTok at any point in time, you know that during the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, I think it's season 3, Hecate is a huge figure in that, right? A lot of people, because what happened? The pandemic happened, a bunch of people were sitting, we didn't have anything to do, and a bunch of people became a witch. Whether they're an actual witch or whether they're just following the social trend, that's not for me to decide, but they are pumping into the confusion. And you're probably like, Lotus, why does this bother you so much? The amount of years that Mother Hecate was reaching out to me, and I did not think that I could work with her because of other things like this shit that I was told. I just didn't work with her. And then I did. And holy shit, she's recently re-entered my life again. Now, there's another thing revolving her that's really driving me crazy, which is she's prepping an army. No, she is not. Also, Hecate, it does not matter. She does not care how you pronounce her name as long as you are not trying to be respect. And this is coming from people. There are full-blown arguments that are happening right now on the pronunciation of a deity's name. Okay, this is also coming from the same community where, oh my God, intention is everything. Just set thy intention. That is only half the work, which is also why some of your spell work's not working because you're only doing half of it. There's this concept that when a witch does a spell, we cackle around. Okay, that was a joke. But we fucking burn some candles and throw some herbs and oils and then we just go about our day. No, I mean, kind of. That also stems from at certain points, there are certain authors that tell you that you're supposed to forget about your spell work because even thinking about it could affect it. Do I believe that? No. The only time your own thinking can affect the spell work, in my opinion, is if you're doubting yourself or you're doubting that spell, then of course it's going to affect that. But back to witchcraft. So you do not have to work out with gods and goddesses, and if at any point in time you do believe that gods and goddesses or a god or goddess or titan, Hecate is considered a titan, okay? Have to get that out of the way. Anyways, obviously do your research. Okay, Lotus, you keep saying do your research. What the fuck does that mean? Not on TikTok, that's for fucking sure. Research. Research the lore, the legends, everything that you can find out there in different resources. Y'all know how I feel about Google. Most of the time, you're not really going to get good researches, depending on what you're searching, especially when it comes to witchcraft, unless you're like Google Docs. Other than that, I would use Bing, DuckDuckGo, and you're going to find better results, all right? Also, YouTube. There's multiple YouTube videos. There are podcast episodes. There's so many things that you can research. Research, okay, and then straight up be like, okay, Hecate, if you are reaching out to me and you would like to work with me, please give me a sign. And then you could also do it with your tarot cards, all right? There's a lot of different ways. Also, gods and goddesses don't want to work with everybody, and that's not pick me. It's saying in general, they don't. And that's not a bad thing. When a god or goddess shows up in your life, typically they're going to be there to help you either discover something about yourself, figure out a different perspective and the perspective that you have on life right now, and multiple other things, but it is not a requirement, okay? Now, the other one, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, the threefold law, not everybody follows it. It's not that, okay? I personally do not believe you... Okay, so when it comes to the aspect of getting backlash or whatever you send out will come back, I do believe in the ripple effect or the butterfly effect, but at the same time, it gets complex because they use that argument, well, you can't do this and this because it goes against free will, but at the same time, you're getting a job or you're doing a job spell to make sure your application is picked. You're doing the exact same thing. You see what I'm saying? Okay, with that being said, can you have weird side effects of spell work? Yes. Does that mean it backfired? I don't know. It depends on the spell work you're doing. Also, can we please stop the murder hit for hire, magically speaking? Okay, I'm not doing a death spell. Well, why, Lotus? You do all these things. Because that's messing with the natural balance of the entire fucking universe. And coming from a death witch, that's saying a lot. But in general, now with that being said, let's get a little bit more into this. So, do you need an altar? No. Would I want you to kind of have one? Yes. Does it have to be this grandiose thing? No. For the longest time, I had a notebook when I lived with my father-in-law or stepfather. I had a notebook that I just drew what I would perceive an altar is, and then I would prop it up just like this tablet is propped up now, and I would use that. And then when I wasn't using it, I would close it. I've used a shoebox. I've used, currently right now, I have an old chopping board on top of my microwave, and I call that my working altar. That's just because I do a lot of custom spell work, and my main altar is kind of, there's a lot of things on there. I will be decluttering that very soon. And then we have this board right here that I've talked about that my partners burned me. And I use this primarily for certain spells and mostly my readings and making content. But you don't have to have one, and it can look anything, okay? You can do whatever you want to your altar. The reason I'm so pressed about that is because on Facebook, a lot of new, by the way, we do not use the term baby witch. Stop calling yourself a fucking baby. You're not, okay? You're a seedling or a sprout or a witchling. I don't care. Just stop saying baby. They get so excited, and I went through this too, where I was like, I needed validation from another practitioner that's been doing this longer to, you know, to kind of sync that, okay, I'm doing this right? When in reality, the coolest way, okay, that you can really get in touch with your own magic is listening to your body, mind, and spirit, listening to that intuition, okay? The reason I say that is they take a picture and they post it and they're like, this is my new altar. What do you think? That's where all hell breaks loose, because you're going to have these people that are completely set in their ways, and they're going to be like, well, you can't have that there. That chalice needs to be up there. You can't have this deity with this deity because they don't like each other. Maybe. I've never had a single issue with them. There are only a few things that I will not cross-contaminate, if you would. Okay? It goes on your vibe. And you're like, well, Lotus, how do I know if they say it's good or bad? This is kind of how you got to figure it out yourself. And what I mean by that is, say you give out an offering. Another question is, okay, Lotus, how long do I leave the offering there? Who are you giving the offering to? You're going to get a different reviews. For an example, say you're working with an infernal. Okay? We don't use the term demon around here. If it starts to rot, maybe that was accepted. You see what I'm saying? One example that I did was I have depression and mental shenanigans. I had just learned how to make other homemade style Southern biscuits, and I made like 3 of them specifically dedicated to my ancestry, and I put it on my altar. This was when my altar was in a different room, and my depression set in. So I just kind of forgot. And me going in there on my last day of depression right before it lifted, I went in there and I said, all right, fuck it. I need to be in front of my altar, whether I'm watching a video, fucking reading a book, at least I'm there, right? Your deities understand mental shenanigans, okay? But I went in there and I was cleaning it, and they turned into petrified biscuits. Like, no rot, no nothing. It goes on the feeling when it comes to doing offerings. How long do I leave it out there? There's a lot of variants. Do you have cats? Do you have dogs? Do you have mice? Do you see what I'm saying? It's up to you. Typically, I like to leave it there for like 24 hours, maybe 2 days, depending on what it is. Now, say from whatever we're cooking for supper, I separate some and I create them in a small little plate of it. That, because there's a lot of different things in there, I would typically only leave it out there for a few hours to 24 hours, and that following day, I have specific locations on our property where I will go and give that offering back. If you put offerings outside, please take the wildlife into consideration, all right? Especially if you live in a national forest, or you live where bears or any other wild animals are at, please take that in mind, okay? You're not wanting to attract those things to you as well. But you do not have to work with gods and goddesses, okay? You can work with many gods and goddesses, but I would not do that right out the gate, okay? Typically, I would say work with a goddess for 6 months to a year before you try to work with another goddess. Well, Lotus, what happens if multiple gods and goddesses present themselves to me? You can tell them, hey, no, I don't want to work with you right now, or hey, I've got a lot going on my plate. Can I circle back? And a lot of the times, gods and goddesses will come through in multitudes of ways. Another thing that you really need to take into consideration, protection. Protection is very weird and finicky because you can be overprotected. Now, what I'm about to say, I've told multiple people, and I got it from a book, but it's the perfect example. Say you get a car, whether it's new or old. You put protection on it, it becomes a blind spot. For your house to be too protected, for one, there's this concept online where like negative spirits, you just need to stay away from them because they're just going to fuck your life up. And yeah, duh, but at the same time, no. I've received messages from what I would consider a negative spirit or a negative being. It's just very complex, but you need to go on your vibe. And with everything, do not pick up a witchy book. And as you're reading it, you feel so connected to it that you create your own law that eventually is going to box you into a box. All right? Take what doesn't resonate and leave it in the book. Take what does and craft it into your own. Okay, I'm going to keep this short. I could go off for rants on hours about this. I do believe that you should at least research witchcraft. This is kind of controversial, but this is what I believe. I do not believe you come to a point where you call yourself a witch as much as you're going to eventually come to a point where you self-identify as a witch before you actually think about it. So you're going to be having a conversation and without thinking, it slips out, oh yeah, I'm a witch. Most powering feeling, but you've got to work there, all right? And if you, okay, well, how do I identify with people? Tell them you're just now getting into witchcraft, or you're a seedling, or a witchling. You're kind of new to this. Do not take offerings as in people are like, oh, well, I can teach you. Don't just let everybody teach you, okay? There needs to be a specific amount of timing up under their belt to properly be able to teach somebody. And I'm sorry, as much as it's cool and exciting creating these like little study groups, I do not believe a person who has only been into witchcraft a year can properly teach as they're also learning, all right? Now, also look into energetic exercises, all right? My definition of witchcraft is we are learning to tweak and kind of tweak the building blocks of life, the atoms, ions, and all of that. Pure energy, we are learning how to manipulate that and tweak that and then direct it into what we are trying to bring into our lives or direct it out to create change. All right, and remember, anybody can practice witchcraft, but it takes time, research, and dedication. You're going to fucking fail multiple times. You're just going to have to get back up and try it again, okay? As always, if y'all have any questions, let me know in the comments. My email, you can also email me. It'll be in the description as well. You got a question, book research, or resources, or anything like that, if I can help, I will. I love getting magical questions asked because remember, there's no such thing as a dumb question, okay? In order to learn, you need to ask questions. And as always, I hope you are having a great New Year's because this year's crazy. But just remember, you have the power, you have the knowledge, and our ancestors also have the power and knowledge, which is also running through your veins. So as always, thank you so much, and I'll see y'all later.